Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at elements and attributes in HTML, what they are and what relation they have to each other. So here we go. So today we're going to be looking at elements and attributes. So back at W3 schools, let's start with elements. So basically an element is everything from the start tag to the end tag. So the tag name, and then the element is basically everything that is over here. So this entire thing is an element. So all of these, like the following, so here HTML elements can be nested, which means that elements can contain other elements. So for example, here, this entire HTML, like this tag to this tag is an element, inside which we have this element, which is the body to the body, inside which we have this and this element, which are two individual. But basically it's like an element inside an element inside an element. So the HTML element is a root element and defines the whole HTML document. So basically this HTML and this HTML, everything between it is an element. Inside we have the body element, so the body to the body, and then inside which we have the H1 and the P tag. H1 defines the heading and the P defines the paragraph, and they're two separate. So that's basically an element. So if we go to our gymnasium.html, so here we have this, for example, if you take this body, so then we have this is like the start of an element. This is the start of an element, this is the end of the element. This head, this entire thing is an element. Inside which, this is an element in itself, this is an element in itself. So basically this whole file is made up of nested elements. Then you see we have the end of that HTML. If I go, yeah. So we have the end over here, then we have the body over here. So you see, it's basically everything between this body to this body. All of it is one element. And then all of them have, for example, like this H1 is an element inside that element. So that's basically an element. Then next we have attributes. So HTML element can have attributes, which is basically additional information about a specific element. And attributes are always specified in the start tag. And they come in name value pairs, like name is equal to value. Here we have here they've taken the example of href, which is the href attribute specifies the URL of the page the link goes to. So this is basically providing information. So this entire thing is an element, and this href is providing a piece of information, so it's an attribute. So then we have image. So image tag is used to embed an image in HTML page. The src attribute specifies a path. So then this is an attribute because it's giving information about this entire element. So that's basically an attribute. And if we look at our own, then here you see this class, for example, as an attribute of this entire H1 element. Then if we maybe look at here, if we look at this inside this input box, this entire input box, so then you see this type is an attribute, this ID is an attribute, all of it is an attribute because it's giving information about these elements. So while this entire thing is an element, yeah, then this is an attribute inside it. Or like this is an attribute inside this entire input element. Then the height and width of attributes. So this is basically like in pixels, so you can add like height, and so it's basically adding more data about the entire thing. So if you have an image, it's giving like the height and width of that image. Then the alt and the style, and then so on. So all of these are different kind of attributes. So for example, the title defines some extra information about an element. So all of this is basically an attribute. So an attribute basically provides information about an element, and an element is everything from the start of a tag to the end of a tag. And then this, for example, most files will normally have a nested element because like there's an element inside an element inside an element, and so on. So that's what an element and an attribute is.